when you're in the EA role, a lot of the times your executives could have big personalities, and I think it's all about just understanding them, getting to know them, getting to know how they work. If you were ever thinking about or wondering what it takes to become an executive assistant, this video is for you. I'm going to share how I became an executive assistant and share some tips and tricks on landing your dream position. Hi YouTube friends, thank you so much for tuning into my channel. My name is Tia and I share travel and lifestyle content. I'm based in New York City and I'm an executive assistant. What exactly is an executive assistant? An executive assistant is someone who supports a C-suite level executive. So a C-suite executive is someone like a CMO, a chief managing officer, or a CFO, a chief financial officer. An executive assistant or EA usually manages their exec's calendar, their travel arrangements, whatever your executive's needs are. There is pretty much a general basic knowledge of what an EA does, which typically consists of admin tasks, and your admin tasks are general office tasks. It's basically someone who helps the business operate. They usually do all the mundane, or I would say tedious tasks that most people in the corporate world don't have the time to actually sit down and do. That's where the admin assistant will come in. And as far as like the executive assistant is mostly like an admin assistant, but the executive assistant solely supports a C-suite exec. I've been an executive assistant for the last 3 years. I got a lot of my experience working in different positions. Like when I first graduated college, I started off working as a talent scout. I got my degree in performing arts and I went to a performing arts school. But like most people, by the time I graduated, I didn't want anything to do with what I went to school for. I knew I wanted to be in the entertainment industry, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted to be doing. I knew it was gonna be behind the camera because that's just, I just couldn't bother with it. But look at me now, I'm in front of the camera again. So where was I? I have a variety of experience in the assistant lane, I want to say. I started off working as a talent scout. I was a casting intern for a casting agency straight out of college. And I did that for a few years and I worked my way up to being the casting assistant, and pretty much the same task that anyone would have in the assistant role: managing the calendar of the casting director, scheduling auditions, going to auditions, running the auditions, corresponding with clients. So I had a lot of fun doing that, but my main issue with that industry was the lack of stability. There would be times I would be working months on end, and then the next month I wouldn't work for 2-3 months, or you never really know how the workflow is going to be. You never really know what your schedule is going to be like. So I wanted something that was a little bit more predictable, that could offer me a little bit more stability. So I ventured off elsewhere into other admin like roles. Like I was a receptionist for some time. I got a couple admin positions. I didn't really land my first corporate executive assistant role until about 2022. And there I got my first real life taste of being an executive assistant, where I focused solely on the chief managing officer, or she was a managing director, I should say. And in that role, I got a lot of experience, or first-hand experience, on what it actually is like being an executive assistant, managing their calendar and their workflow. Prior to landing my first corporate executive assistant position, working at the casting agency, it was a little bit more different. The industry was a little different. It was kind of the same, the work was the same, but the people, the industry, the culture was very different. So stepping into my first corporate role, it was like a culture shock almost. The corporate world and like the regular world, it's just two different worlds, I should say. And so I did that for about 2 years, and I gained as much experience as I could. And then I moved on to the position that I'm in right now, which is still an executive assistant, but I bumped up the responsibilities a little bit. So instead of managing one executive, I manage about 5. I shouldn't say manage. I support 5 executives instead of 1 now. And different executives, they have different needs, different personalities. And when you're in these type of roles, when you're in the EA role, a lot of the times your executives could have big personalities. I think it's all about just understanding them, getting to know how they work, thinking 10 steps ahead, trying to identify what their needs are and what you can do to make their life easier. So I would say that's pretty much how I became an executive assistant and what I do today in my everyday day-to-day. I did a video on this before, but basically no day is the same. It just depends on what project I'm working on. But just so you know, a lot of executive assistants, they are heavy in calendar management, heavy in travel and expense. So when your executive's traveling, it's best to put together a whole itinerary for them so that they know what's happening, what steps they are going to be taking, what events they need to go to, and just make their life easier, basically. So that's how I became an executive assistant, and I want to move on to sharing some tips and tricks on landing your dream role. I would say a good executive assistant, like someone who is able to think 10 steps ahead and anticipate the needs of their executive, someone who is able to manage time correctly. Time management is a big thing. You have to be able to manage your time to know what projects are going on, what deadlines are needed to be met, what's happening, when it's happening, how it's happening. You need to have all these information so it can help you better assist. Aside from time management, you need to be able to prioritize. A lot of the times you have deadlines that are happening at the same time or within the same time of each other. And then you will have people that want to meet your executive. A lot of these executives are managing a lot of people all at once, and a lot of them sometimes want time with them all at the same time. So you need to be able to prioritize what can be put off to the side, what needs to happen right away, what can wait a little bit. And so being able to differentiate between those would help you out in the long run. Time management also goes into being able to manage your calendars, because that's a big thing. If you're going to be managing calendars, you got to be able to manage time. You got to be able to know how to prioritize situations, projects, people. You have to be able to know how to manage the stuff. Emotional intelligence. Like I said, with these execs, you're dealing with strong personalities. I think that's the right word or the right term for it. People with strong personalities, people with big, different personalities, you don't know what to expect. And you have to have the emotional awareness to know, one, who you're dealing with, right? And that goes into the interview process before you even land a job. Get to know or try to soak in as much as you can during the interviewing process so that you're a bit more prepared, or you get a stronger idea of who you're going to be supporting, who you're going to be working with. So I would say emotional awareness is a big part of it, because then dealing with these personalities, you never know, sometimes they'll be having a hard day. Like a lot of the times business comes first. And so you have to be able to know how not to take things personally. A lot of these people have a lot of things on their plate, a lot of stress on their plate, as we all do. They have a lot, they're managing all of these different people. They're managing all these different projects, managing all these different dollars. So a lot's at stake. So I'd say having the emotional intelligence to not take things personally goes a long way. Another tip that will help you gain the position or help prepare you for the position is a proactive thinking skills or proactive thinking. Like I said before, thinking 10 steps ahead. You know they have a pitch coming up, or you know your exec has a client meeting. Okay, you know they want you to schedule a client meeting, so what's coming after that? You know, you have to figure out, okay, do they want to meet in the office? Do they want to meet over Teams or Slack or whatever channel it is that they meet on? Or do they want to have this meeting at a restaurant? Figure out where, when, how, why you want to do this meeting. Then you have to think about, okay, do I need to make reservations? Do I need to send links out? Do I need to do this, or do I need to confirm? So just thinking about different steps that you need to take to get this completed, and figuring out how can I make this person get to and from this meeting or complete this meeting easier. So it just comes with thinking out the steps that they need to take and where you can interject in any way to make this thing go smoothly. I'm not much of a talker, and so I'm trying to explain it as much as I can, as best as I can, so bear with me. I would say the last and most important tip is organization. A lot of people aren't organized, and so things become chaotic, things become a mess. I'm someone that likes my things organized. I like to look at spreadsheets. I like my spreadsheets to be clean, cut, clear for people to read. You have to be able to pull up a file from years ago. Being organized, being an organized person will get you far in this position. Just like an admin assistant, an executive assistant is the person who knows where all the files are, who knows where every file is and where and how and when exactly to find them. A person who knows how operations work, how the building works, how the employees work, what the employees do. That's what a good executive assistant is. The knower of all things. Of course you don't know all things, but you just have to have a lot of information stored. Sometimes they're relevant, sometimes they're irrelevant. So you just have to be able to organize the information, store them correctly, store them in a place where you're able to pull them at any given time. Organizing your files, organizing your emails, organizing your phone, because sometimes you'll need your phone too because you'll have to be texting back and forth. So being an organized person as best as you can, people have their different ways of organizing. Maybe like later on down the line, I can probably try to do like a more in-depth detailed video on how to like organize your files, how to organize data so that you can be able to operate in a more efficient way. Now, when it comes to actually landing the job, getting the interview and landing the job, I say tailor, just like anyone else, just common knowledge. Tailor your resume to highlight skills in your past experience or responsibilities that show that you can be a good executive assistant. Highlight things like what softwares you use. A lot of corporate spaces utilize Microsoft Office, G Suite. So if you have experience with spreadsheets, pivot tables, if you've had experience with Dropbox, whatever experience you have with organizational functions, I'd highlight that on your resume. Another tip would be updating your LinkedIn profile. A lot of recruiters utilize LinkedIn to find candidates. So if you're on the market for executive assistant job and you put on your LinkedIn profile that you're open for new positions and what type of position you're interested in, LinkedIn will put your profile in front of different recruiters, and then next thing you know, you'll just be having all these different recruiters reaching out to you. I still have recruiters reaching out to me. So there's always, depending on your area and depending on where you live, a lot of the times they'll reach out to you. So I say keep your LinkedIn up to date. Make sure you're browsing yourself, because you can, just like recruiters can find you, you can also find recruiters. All right, before going into the interview, I would suggest you do as much research as you possibly can. You want to know what the company stands for, what their culture is like. Try to get a general idea, general knowledge of what exactly you're interviewing for and who you're interviewing for. Then once you get to the interview, think of questions that you want to ask. Again, you are supporting this person 5 days a week, 40 hours a week, sometimes more. And you want to like the person that you're working for, right? Because a lot of the times, like I mentioned in the past, I've had experiences in the past where some executives, they don't appreciate their assistants, and sometimes it can, there can be like a personality clash. You could never really get to know a person right off the bat, but I would say just use the interview as a time to get to know the exec, get to know the people that work for them, find out what their core values are, what they, how they treat their employees, what the company culture is like. Try to find out how they like to work, what their needs are, how much support do they need, because one executive might want more help with travel while the other one would just want help with their calendar. So try to figure out what type of or what level of support they would need. So that is my tips and tricks for landing your dream role as an executive assistant. I hope this video was really helpful. I'm new to this YouTube space and I'm trying it out, and I try to produce a video that will be helpful to people. So I hope that I did a good job in explaining what goes into being an executive assistant, or at least giving a general idea. If you like to see more content from me, please be sure to give me a thumbs up or consider giving me a subscribe. I post every other Sunday, and I'm so excited getting to know my YouTube friends, and I'm so happy that you're here, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.